happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we have a brand new episode, which was not released yesterday. We released this Woman in Supply Chain episode with Lisa Dolan on International Women's Day on Friday in celebration. We had lots to talk about last Friday, actually. But this is a do not miss episode. Lisa has been in the industry for a very long time, multi-award winning supply chain professional, board member, speaker, and she has a lot to say when it comes to her career, what it's been like to be a woman in supply chain, and also a lot of really, really great advice as to how to move through this industry and how to elevate your career and even your voice in the industry as well. So go check it out. It's episode 395, wherever you listen to the show. Plus, we've got some new live shows coming out. So Eric Johnson is going to be live on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern with LogTech Live, e-commerce logistics woes for SMBs. Now, you're not going to want to miss this one. That's all about last mile. We talked a lot about last mile at TPM last week, so I'm sure he's going to bring a lot of great insights. And then tomorrow, Relex Talks goes live at 9 a.m. Eastern. Now, they're talking about the state of supply chain 2024, and this is something and some research that they have compiled, and they're giving you a sneak preview. Now, remember, if you click the attend button, we will send you the recording even if you cannot attend live. So make sure that you click the attend button, or we will see you live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. And then next Wednesday, Christine Barnhart is going to go live with Supply Chain Unfiltered. And she's talking about supply chain AI magic, Newology's enchanted journey. So you're going to learn a lot more about supply chain technology, what that's looked like, how they have impacted the industry. So go ahead and click the attend button, and hopefully we'll see you there. And then last but not least, I didn't talk about the Secret Society of Supply Chain yet, which I usually do at the beginning of the show. They are our show sponsor, and it is our new membership groups. And we've got a community for everyone. We've got the supply chainers with exclusive content, best practices. We've got a virtual monthly meetup for women in supply chain, which is the one that you are looking at right now. We are close. There's only a couple of spots left for our second cohort, which is going to be led by Katie Date. And you're going to be joining Holly Pierce and Christy Mitchell. So go ahead, click the link in the comments and make sure to join us for that. And then we also have the Creative Room, which is a virtual monthly meetup for marketing professionals in supply chain. This one is led by me. And we're going to put you in front of clients. We're going to do some focus groups, and we're going to do so much more. You're going to be able to talk about what's working, what's not working in marketing, specifically in the supply chain industry. So go and grab your seat today, because we are actually launching that first cohort in April. Oh, there's one more thing. I totally forgot. Then I also released an edition of the Monthly Hustle yesterday from Auckland to Helsinki. I talk about some of my lessons learned from around the globe. I have been very lucky to travel the world for a variety of different reasons, and I share with you some of those trips. So go and check that out. Hopefully you liked it. I'd love to hear from you, so make sure that you comment. All right, now that's enough from me. It's time to bring up Paula. Good morning, Paula. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Sarah. How are you doing?
I am doing okay. I just hope that I get through this whole 30 minutes without coughing. So that
You gotta love spring fever, right?
well, I think it's, that cold after a conference, because I went to TPM, got back on Thursday night, Friday night hit with the cold. So it's been a couple of days, but it's this nasty cough that keeps lingering around. So I hope nobody else caught this at TPM. I think Audrey might have, but if anybody else did, I hope you're feeling okay. All right. So if anybody doesn't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do. And for everybody in the audience, we want to hear from you today. So let us know where you are from in the comments. And if you have any questions for Paula, now is the time to do it. So Paula, tell us who you are.
Awesome. And first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Paula Natoli. I am part of Google Cloud's Global Strategic Industries organization. So
Wow.
What does that mean? So if you think about cloud technology as a whole, as a platform, as an enabler, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it. And I know we'll talk about AI and generative AI and all that cool stuff today. my job is to help ensure that that can be properly translated, that technology, into business specific industry use cases. So I have colleagues that focus on industry by industry, retail, manufacturing, healthcare, life sciences. I get the pleasure, of all of us do in supply chain, to be able to cut across all those industries. So I work across industries, across regions globally to help make that translation happen. But I've been here now about 3.5 years. I started, of course, during the pandemic when everyone started talking supply chain, right? But prior to that, I've spent my entire career in enterprise supply chain software. So it's been a lot of fun to watch it all evolve over decades.
Yes, and now you're with Google, which is amazing. And we're going to get to some of those use cases for generative AI. But first, let's talk about the poll of the week. So we ask our audience a question every single Wednesday morning across our social media. So the question we asked, what is your perfect work environment? And we had almost 500 votes for this one. So 34% of you said remote bliss. 46% of you said balanced atmosphere. Now, this one is interesting to me, because everybody that I have talked to has said that they want to keep working from home and they don't necessarily like the hybrid model. But this doesn't lie. 46% of you says balanced atmosphere. And that kind of makes me think that the hybrid model is actually working for most people. What did you think about this, Paula? And what's your choice?
Yeah, I'm probably more balanced. I think over the years, I've always worked remote, and I've gotten my fill at whether it be at conferences or meetings or travel. So I still need that social side as well. So I like being in my home office, but I can't miss out on the social side of things and interacting with people. So I like that answer.
You make a very good point, because when I think about balanced atmosphere, I'm thinking about like working at home and then going into an office, which is not something that I do. But you bring up a good point in the fact that maybe a balanced atmosphere for me is working from home, but then also going to a conference and seeing people and interacting with people. And so I think you've just changed my choice. I would have gone with remote bliss, but I think I would change mine now to balanced atmosphere. I love it.
Different definition. I like it.
Yeah, I like that too. So 12% of you said collaborative spaces. 8% of you said quiet office. Well, thanks so much for everybody who weighed in on the question of the week. Now, we ask you a question every Wednesday morning on LinkedIn and Instagram, so make sure that you are part of that conversation. Now, Paula, this is the part of the program where I kind of ask for a market update. Now, I know most of this program today and what we're going to be talking about is AI in a variety of different forms, but you talk to a lot of professionals, a lot of supply chain leaders around technology in general, right? Do you have a market update that you can share with us that you're talking to some of your clients about, or maybe other supply chain leaders that that is top of mind for them right now?
Yeah, I guess I could probably look at this in a couple of different ways. So, number one, whether it's AI or any type of use case, I think the key is tangibility. Organizations are really shying away from the let's continue to talk about things and visionary, and we could do X, Y, and Z. It needs to go down to tangibility, right? Let's do something now. So kind of seeing that in general and doing that within and amongst the technology and tools that they already have as well. This concept of rip and replace, right? No one really wants to do that anymore.
No.
But they need the tangibility to grow and evolve. So it's a matter of how can they wrap around that type of technology to start to augment and accelerate new use cases and unlock things that are there. But then the third thing, Sarah, that I would mention that I do see conversations on, whether it's AI or just any type of tech, is what skills do I need? How do I need upskilling my workforce? Is this just an IT thing? How many data scientists do I need? So I think there's this whole other conversation going on of what type of skills do I need to unlock these new use cases today and into the future.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've been talking to a lot of people about, especially around technology, is sort of this testing environment.
Yeah.
Can we set up a testing environment? Can we test different technology partners to see whether A, they're the right fit for us, whether they actually solve for the problem that we have? Can we break it? And what happens when we break it? As a
Yeah.
partner, can they help us rebuild it or maybe customize to what we need? I was on stage at TPM with Julia from Million Dollar Baby, and she did a great job of talking about her tech stack and really building that data foundation and then understanding what it was that she needed for the journey. And she's still on that journey, but it was kind of the beginning stages of that journey. And what do we really need to solve for first? And she did set up kind of a testing environment to be able to test which partners would work best for her. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a smart way, right? I think
Mhm.
gone are the days of doing a multi-year let's review type of thing, right? It becomes how quickly can you start to showcase the value of that
Mhm.
and have it prove business value. In the end, that's what we're looking for, right? We all love
Yeah.
tech, but we only are using the tech in order to drive an actual business outcome. And so I
Mhm.
love the idea of that testing type of environment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's get to our first article because we've got a lot to talk about today. And this first article talks about why generative AI is a game changer for supply chains. Now, I just want to focus on the first line of this article. It says supply chains of the future will be steered by human creativity, but powered by AI and intelligent technologies. I just want to let that sit for a second because too many times we're talking about how technology is potentially, or AI is going to potentially
Mhm.
replace humans. And later on in this article, it actually says that humans are not going to be replaced by AI, but humans will be replaced if they don't use AI. Talk to me about those two sentences because to me, those are the most impactful from this article, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. And I think honestly, it even goes back to the point I was making before about skills, right? What
Mhm.
becomes the necessary skills? It's funny. We've been in this environment, like a lot of your listeners, been doing this for a pretty long time. Do you remember back a few decades ago when just the first set of decision support tools came out?
Yeah.
And everyone started using those, and the same concept was there of, oh geez, so I've been doing this for so many years, this tool's going to come in and replace me. And what happened? No, that's not the case. I think there's a very similar approach here when we talk about AI becomes another tool in our supply chain toolbox to be able to drive those business outcomes that we're looking for. Sometimes that AI might help us do things in a different way. It might speed up productivity, where now I'm opening up newfound time that we didn't have before for us to be able to do other things. So I think it comes down to a level of skills. It's a level of understanding. I
Yeah.
still think that there's a lot of questions and anxiety out there about, well, what does this truly mean? So I
Mhm.
think it starts with education, understanding. And frankly, I do think it's going to be a skill that everybody, including all of us in supply chain, are going to need to have.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the article also talked about the premise being that AI is going to automate mundane and repetitive tasks,
Yeah.
but it's also going to empower the human component with the right information, predictions, and suggestions. So, what this really does is it puts it into context about how it's a game changer for supply chain. What questions do we need to be asking ourselves, around AI? But also, what does it do for our team? Like you said, what skills do we need from our team? What do we need to invest in our team to be able to make sure that the supply chain teams can understand and better utilize AI so that we can automate mundane and repetitive tasks? But one thing that I will mention is that I think we think too big too quickly, and I feel like AI really needs to be sort of one step at a time. Like we need to take a look at one process
Yeah.
and what does it mean to our business? What does it mean to supply chain? How do we apply AI to really help us improve that process? Now, Ryan Peterson from Flexport is going to be on my show next Monday. And I asked him how he's using AI, and he said that it took him 10 years to get to this point. I was like, 10 years?
Yeah.
But it really puts it into context as to how long some of these things have taken a lot of people to get to this point. Whereas a lot of people are looking at AI right now, today, and are like, I can implement this and this is going to be great for tomorrow. Maybe not.
Yeah, well, and it's all a journey, right? This
Mhm.
isn't one single point in time, go quote unquote implement it, right?
Right.
It's a journey. And I think as all of us within our organizations are learning about it, doing the testing that you talked about, Sarah, getting to the level of tangibility, what we have to bear in mind as well is this technology is evolving so rapidly at a different pace than what we've seen in so many other situations. So if we're not keeping on top of it, that technology is just going to loop through and people will be behind. So it's finding that right balance.
Absolutely. I want to say hi to Ebenezer and Larry over on my personal LinkedIn. Remember, if anybody has any questions, drop them in the comments because now's your time. One more thing about this article, they talk about each businesses needing to have an AI center of excellence. And it made me chuckle because I was like, supply chain leaders, business leaders are overwhelmed with technology already, right? You throw AI on top of that, and they're like, I'm not sure how we're going to use this. And then we're like, well, you need to put together a center for excellence around just AI. And everybody's going to go, what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, I find it a little bit funny if you think back to the days where we had supply chain centers of excellence, right, within an organization. And I think a lot of this does come into the blending where I mentioned AI is another tool. It's another tool in our toolbox. And personally, I would see that AI piece as part of the broad, right? It's just another tool in the toolbox. And do we need to have skills and education to use it? The answer is yes. But I do think there's also this blending between IT and business resources, meaning AI isn't just this IT thing sitting over there and somebody's going to go magically create something that's going to benefit us over here in the business side, right? I think there is absolutely a blending of skill sets between the two organizations as well.
Yeah, well, and I think also the collaboration, right? Collaboration is the future of business, bringing all the internal teams together under one center of excellence, whether it's AI focused, whether it's not, there could be subcommittees. One could be AI, but I think you're right. I think we need to bring everybody together. All right. So let's talk about our second article. Now, this is a little bit older. It's from August last year, but it's still a very pertinent conversation. Now, this is about the Barbie story, right? The Barbie movie, the world runs out of Barbie pink, and how they're blaming supply chain for that, and how it wiped out an entire global supply chain of pink paint, which really created a shortage. But what was interesting to me, and this is a very, very good case study in risk resilience, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it was a domino effect. It actually didn't start with the Barbie movie needing all of the pink paint. It started with COVID. It started with the pandemic. Then it went into the deep freeze in Texas that wiped out a whole bunch of material that was needed to create this paint, this pink paint. And then the Barbie movie happened and they needed all the pink paint in the world. And so it's interesting because we really thought that it was that one event that created this, but it really started back in 2020 with the pandemic and with the disruptions happening all the way through. What did you think of this particular article?
I think you're spot on. And even though, like you said, it's a couple of months old, right? Anyone watch the Oscars?
Right.
It's still going, right? It's still going.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to your point, it is a domino effect. And for all of us trying to manage and have the best, streamlined supply chain that we can, it's not always tied to one event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this idea, when we talk about simulations, how do we simulate demand going up dramatically, right? How do we simulate though that going up in addition to a key supplier going out of business? So now it becomes multifaceted as well. So I love the storyline and how you tie it together across. It's a chain reaction. So all of us in supply chain need to start ensuring that we are thinking on the complex scenarios, not the one little, okay, here's my one situation. How do I model that? because our supply chains are just inherently becoming more and more complex.
Yeah.
Our thought process and how we can simulate that around technologies and to negate as much risk as possible also has to handle that type of complexity.
Yeah, and it's not like this disruption is happening today. It's not going to affect me into the future. It's this disruption is happening today. How is it going to affect what I need to do in the future? I mean, you can't predict, I guess, the Barbie movie and running out of pink paint, but even still, one of the quotes in this particular article says that supply chain professionals plan in a perfect world, but execute in the real world. I love that quote. Stay tuned. I think I'm going to put it on a t-shirt. So it's going to be on the Let's Talk Supply Chain website in our shop. But I really like that because it's so true, right? And it reflects the Barbie movie. She was in a perfect world. She had to go into the real world to really understand that the grass isn't always greener. But that's what our world is like on a day-to-day basis. Now, one question I have for you, because it does touch on risk resilience. It touches on how sustainability can actually help with risk resilience. So I'll let everybody read that part of it. But what I want to know is, how is AI helping us to be risk resilient? How can we use it for that particular component?
Yeah. I think, and we'll talk a little bit about this also in the terms of generative AI. I think sometimes we don't even know the questions to ask.
Right.
So AI even helping us to identify what could be possible, because we're always thinking, okay, let me think through what could happen, right? And I'm going to list these things out, right, in a very pragmatic type of approach.
To-do list.
It's right, exactly. We all have them. All mine are all sticky notes, by the way. But if we don't even know what could happen, it's a big world out there. Can we use AI to get us to even think about scenarios that we might not even be thinking about today? So your domino effect. What if this and this and this and this happened? Well, my goodness, I only thought about 2 of those happening at one time. So I think AI even helping us contemplate what could happen up front is going to help us be more resilient and more sustainable. And of course, those things are intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now I want to get to this last. It's not really an article. It really touches on what Google is doing in generative AI. So I'll pull that up in a second. I'll let you all visit that. But Paula, you presented last November at the Bloom conference, and I loved it. It's one of the reasons why I reached out to you to come on this show, because you talked about the 4 kind of use cases that we can really focus on specifically for supply chain. One of the things that I like to do in all of the content that we create is really create some action items, some sort of focused things that supply chain professionals can take back to their teams and say, hey, are we using this? Are we not using it? Why aren't we using it? So talk to us about those 4 components and why they are specific to supply chain and why supply chain professionals should be thinking about them.
So, and thanks so much, Sarah. The idea of generative AI really caught us all a little bit off guard, right? We were kind of like, wow, what is this? We're all getting used to AI, and now we have generative AI. What does that really mean? And if we were just to kind of take that back, the idea of generative AI is that we are creating something new that hasn't yet existed before, right? It's generating something. So what can we generate? We've all intertwined and interacted with the text, right? It's the basic one, right? We've all been using those tools in our own personal world. Well, if you ask it a question and you get something back summarized based upon data and content. So if now I'm taking all of that, how can I use that to help predict the Barbie paint issue, right? If I'm a demand planner, if I want to vet out potential suppliers and I need to understand their on-time delivery, their cost metrics, their sustainability initiatives, I can utilize those types of things. So text is easy. You can apply it into an enterprise environment. But now we get into other forms. We all think text, but what about image generation?
Yeah,
that's a big topic right now. How do I generate images? And if I'm in the supply chain space, what if I'm generating marketing content? I'm a logistics service provider. I'm going to generate content, just, that concept of creative. If I move into audio and video, safety is a top priority, right? We think about our workers in the warehouse, or even I'm going down to a store level associate. people who are hands-on? Can I generate training videos? Can I utilize vision AI technologies to be able to identify if somebody is leaning outside of a safety zone, right? So now I'm going to apply those into the facilities as well. And lastly, coding, right? It's not the pretty one that we all see, but think about all the integration work that happens in the supply chain space, right? You're going to bring in a new WMS system or a new planning system. How do I integrate that all in? I need to code integration, or I need to code new features of a service offering that I want to do. So the ability to augment coding technologies using generative AI can help us achieve a faster time to value of supply chain use cases as well. So I think there's a ton of opportunity. And part of it is first understanding what's available, thinking about the art of the possible, applying it to supply chain, and then going back to your very first point, we got to do something, right? Let's not just talk about it. Let's do it. Let's test it out and see where it takes us.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing those. Now, one of the things that sort of came to mind when you were talking about that is limited beliefs. I feel like in our own personal lives, when we think about what is possible for ourselves, we have limited beliefs. But now layer on top generative AI, and I think we might be our own worst enemy because we've got our limited beliefs on what we actually think is possible.
I think that's that's very true. And I think all too often it's, sometimes we talk about, it's funny, we talk about the imposter syndrome as a whole.
Yep.
And if you think about it, it's kind of almost holding you back on yourself. And I think the same thing holds true to the point that you're raising here. There's a lot of things that are possible. And part of it is we have to understand it. And if you don't understand it, guess what? You're never going to get there. So understanding and then aiming to, on the generative side, we always talk about, for example, on AI, let's forecast our future, but we can create our own future, no pun intended. But with generative AI, it's up to us. A lot of opportunity.
There is so much opportunity. So don't be limited in what you believe is possible, because there is a lot that is possible. Now, before we go, I just want to let everybody know where I'm going to be. So on Thursday, if you are not signed up for this webinar yet, please go to the registration in the link that we've just posted in the comment and register. I'm going to be doing a webinar, How Data Accuracy Drives Efficiency at Aeronet Worldwide. Now, this is a fireside chat, one-on-one use case around 3PLs, logistics providers, what it means to have that data accuracy and how it has driven efficiency specifically for Aeronet. And then March 21st, I am collaborating with Supply Chain Brain on a webinar with Reveal called Parcel Shipping in Style, a Reveal apparel case study as well. So go and register for that one too. We've got a lot going on here at Let's Talk Supply Chain. Paula, it has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all your insights with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, everyone.